The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be. I'll be right here, right here. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for you.
This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friends. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful best day ever. And for those of you who are new to the Lillian McDermott radio show, the purpose of the show is to provide a place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening friend, will feel empowered to live the life of your dreams. Now, speaking of dreams, I want to encourage you to, for everybody who's listening to me, to put me on in your phones, speed dial. I don't know if they call it speed dial anymore, but 407-373-5959. That's 407-373-5959, because we're going to be giving away 2 gift certificates. One of them is from Jacksonville for the people that are listening in the First Coast, and the other one is from Melbourne area, from Cocoa Beach area. So stay tuned and you can learn a little bit more. 407-373-5959. It's a $20 gift certificate, and you are going to love it, because today, as I've mentioned to you before, I have been obsessed with the new documentary, Eating You Alive. The first time that I saw my guest was in this documentary, and I wanted to reach out to every single doctor that is standing up and saying, enough with the medical cycle, enough with the unhealthy cycle, and let's focus on how we can get better and use our resources, such as our food, as medicine. And so today, Dr. Amanda McKinney is here to talk to us about a passion of hers of lifestyle medicine. And she is an OBGYN, and she spent the last 7 years studying the medical science of nutrition and how lifestyle choices affect our health, the economy, and our environment. Dr. McKinney is here, and she's going to teach us how our body deals and fights infection. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. McKinney is in the house to discuss how we can help reverse and improve our bodies with nutritional means. And so welcome, Dr. McKinney, to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show.
Good morning, Lillian.
I'm so excited that you are here, and share a little bit about your background and how you first started dabbling into nutrition as medicine.
Yeah, so I know you've had Dr. T. Colin Campbell on your show before.
Yes.
And he wrote the China study, and that was really the impetus for me. And after I read that book, I was really angry because I realized that there were a whole lot of things that I didn't learn in medical school. And so I had to sort of take to re-educating myself about what was really the cause of disease and really how to reverse it.
Sure. And so as you are diving deeper, are you realizing that as an OBGYN, many of the issues that you're treating with medication can be treated with food?
Absolutely. So, on the OB side, on the pregnancy side, so much of what we see in pregnancy, complications of pregnancy, hypertension during pregnancy, gestational diabetes, all those things are primarily brought on by nutritional insufficiency, or the wrong types of foods. And those things are leading to problems like autism in offspring. We're also seeing on the gynecologic side, patients have polycystic ovarian syndrome, and endometriosis, fibroids, and irregular bleeding, and those things too are also largely the result of dietary problems. And so much of what we fight against in obstetrics and gynecology in particular are the result of these things.
It's amazing to me because I remember during my childbearing years and in my adult life as well, until I started dabbling and learning more about nutrition, because I was challenged on my show. I don't know if you know this, but I was challenged about a year into my show. We've been doing the show now for 6.5 years. A year into the show, I had a guy who was a raw foodist. He had his restaurant, Happy Healthy Human, as a matter of fact. And he challenged me to 1 month of eating raw vegan. And within like a few days, I didn't realize I felt great, but I even felt better. I didn't know I was feeling bad until I started feeling better, right? And so that changed my life. If I could feel this good just eating raw vegan, and we're not talking about being raw vegan, we're just talking about using food as medicine, what else was out there? And that's what caused me to dive into this whole change in my show. But we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Amanda McKinney when we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. It's amazing the stuff that we're not being told. And I can see I'm just a regular person being angry that I've been lied to, but you paid a lot of money to learn a truth. So let's talk about that. We come back. I'm glad that you mentioned endometriosis, polycystic ovarian, and pregnancy. I mean, that's where it all begins, right?
Right.
It's amazing. So how did you get selected to be on the documentary Eating You Alive?
Dr. Esselstyn is a friend of mine.
Great guy. He's coming on this week. Yeah.
Is he good?
Yeah.
Yeah. When the group came to interview him, he said, well, you need to go out and talk to Dr. McKinney. So they came out to Nebraska. So
no way.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was really great.
That is so sweet. And so, when you were called, did it change, now that you've been in the documentary, has it changed your life at all? Or how has it changed your life?
That's hard to say. I certainly have had patients reach out to me that probably would not have known about me before, in my area. Mm-hmm. I would say, that's probably the biggest factor. Yeah.
I know that Mylan Ross was on the cover of Vegan Magazine, or do you know who Mylan Ross is?
I don't.
He's the guy in the documentary that was 515 pounds.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about.
He's been on my show. The first time he overslept.
Oh.
It's so funny, but it kicked off a really wonderful start of bantering back and forth and making him sure that he owes me. But we just recorded the actual show that we were supposed to do, and he was fabulous. He said his whole life has changed completely.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Completely. He's giving talks and oh my gosh. Yeah. He was in the cover of Men's Magazine, or he's actually going to reveal his body without surgery, being comfortable in your own skin. Yeah. Okay, so here you go.
You can count on me. I'll be right here.
Now, Dr.
waiting for
McKinney, do you see me when I speak? Do you
You
see
can
me
text
on there?
Lillian
Okay, good.
McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
And welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show. Fasten your seatbelts because we are going to learn a new truth, and if you can handle it. Today I was at the gym, and this man, he's a really nice guy. He's very helpful and was talking to me about, and for a while now, he's been talking to me about how his back is hurting him and how he has pains all over his body. And I asked him the question, what are you willing to do to be healthy? And he said, I want to be healthy. Yeah. Well, okay. What are you willing to do? Well, be willing to do anything. Would you be willing to consider that the animal products that you're eating are causing inflammation in your body? And he goes, really? I said, yes. Would you be willing to consider stopping animal products? And it was almost like I could hear Dr. McKinney. I could hear the song from Meatloaf. I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. I would do anything to be healthy, but I won't give up my meat. And I won't embrace a nutritarian lifestyle or a whole food plant-based lifestyle. No, I won't do that. So I am here today with Dr. Amanda McKinney. She is an OBGYN. And so do you find this, Dr. McKinney, that people come to you because they want to get better, but they would rather take a pill than actually change their lifestyle?
Oh, all the time. All the time. I think that, culturally, food is such an important part of who we are. And, we were all raised a certain way. We were all raised eating a certain way. And so I think one of the biggest hurdles is when somebody is told that the way that they were raised their entire life and the way they've been eating their entire life is wrong, okay, or it's caused them to have this disease or this problem. It's really hard to accept that. And so people go into an automatic defense mode.
Yep.
They go into an automatic state of denial because that's something that's deeply personal. It's like religious beliefs, and it's
Sure.
like those other things. And so that is universally what we see. Now, this person that you spoke to at the gym this morning may very well think about this for a little while,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe do some research on his own and look into some things, and may change his mind. But that is often the first response from people.
That is, and also it's almost like they push you away when people learn a new truth. And I don't want to say that everything we were taught was wrong. I would say everything we're taught was misrepresented to the person who was teaching us. And so as we dive into this new truth, that might change the future. Because Dr. McKinney, how many people have come to you and say, my mother has diabetes, her mother or her father had diabetes, and I know I'm going to get diabetes. And what I say to them is, yes, if you continue, the inheritance is the food, the recipes. What do you say in a situation like that?
That's exactly what I tell people. But I also think there's the reverse that's true. I'll have, I have friends that, they're in terrible condition physically, and they're young. And, I'll say, gosh, you really, and these are people that I know well enough to say, hey, you're going to drop over one of these days if you don't do something.
Yeah.
And this one particular person that I am thinking of, he says, well, he says, he said, I'm ready to go. You got to die of something. And
yeah.
he's like, he's like, my dad's 92 and he's in good health. And, he never had any of these problems. And I said, but your dad wasn't eating the stuff that you're eating.
Yes.
That's the other thing that's changed, is that even though, parents may have had these other diseases or may not have had these other diseases, our lifestyles have changed dramatically in the last 50, 60 years. So, so the reverse is true. So there's a lot of people think they're protected because their parents or their grandparents didn't have a certain disease, but that is not true either.
Well, when we believe that our DNA is what dictates how our life is going to be, I can see why we could care less. Because if our DNA is going to determine whether or not I'm healthy or not, then I'm going to eat whatever I want, right? Because I'm going to look at my parents and know that this is the life I am destined. These are the cards I was dealt with. Right. But if I believe that nutrition is what's going to turn on and turn off that DNA, right, then that's great news, because I can avoid many of the things that I've seen in my family in the generations. So let's take that kind of avoidance, because I have spoken to people that were told they could never have children, and they go on a no sugar, no wheat, no dairy, and all of a sudden they're pregnant. Mm-hmm. So can you share a little bit about that?
Right. So I have one patient in particular that I was seeing who actually came to see me because she was having irregular periods and infertility, but her acute problem was that she was having terrible abdominal pain. Mm-hmm. And she'd been to the emergency room and she'd had scopes, and she was on her way to see a gastroenterologist at our university medical center. And I said, it's something that you're eating. I said, all of this stuff is the food. It's all the food. And so we put her on kind of a reverse elimination diet. And I just said, we're going to eliminate everything. We're just going to start with potatoes, simple to digest. We're just going to start
potatoes
slowly.
Or regular potatoes?
We just started with regular potatoes.
Okay.
And then we just started to add things back in slowly. And within days, her abdominal pain was all gone. And within 30 days, she was pregnant. And so, it's remarkable. And what she found was her problem was, she describes it as corn. Now, I don't know if it's fructose, or I think it's probably high fructose corn syrup. But anything that had
GMO
corn
in the corn
could be, there's, it could be a lot of things. It could be the pesticide that's sprayed on GMO corn. It's hard to parse out what that is, but as long as she avoided those things, then she was better. And so, it's amazing how much impact there is that people don't realize, but then also how quickly those things can be reversed once you take away the offending agents.
So help me understand this. So she was eating potatoes for how long? Just potatoes?
Well, potatoes and brown rice. We had her do that for just a couple of days. And then I think I had her do it for 3 days. And then I said, you can add in green vegetables. Mm-hmm. And so we had her add in green vegetables, and then we added in fruit, and then we added in beans. But I think she probably, by the time she was 2 weeks in, she was had figured this out and was sort of back to her regular diet, or regular diet minus the things that were causing her the problems.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. Now, how important, because I had said that my friend, she was given less than 10%. She had one ovary removed, and she had probably a portion of her left, one of the ovaries, and she was told she had less than 10% chance that she could ever have a child that she should consider adoption. After I saw her pregnant the third time, I said, you need to come on the show and tell your story. And it turned out that what she did was the no wheat, no dairy, no sugar. So if somebody were to do something like that, have you seen those as major culprits in people when they're trying to have a healthy life?
It just, again, it kind of depends. I would certainly say dairy is a problem. For the simple fact that, and dairy is different than dairy was 100,
Sure.
200 years ago.
Sure.
Okay. But dairy has, depending on what type you're eating, it can have a lot of fat in there. And the fat we eat is the fat we wear. And that contributes to ovulatory dysfunction. And the hormone levels in dairy are super high, because in this country, we, not only do you have a cow that just gave birth that's got high levels of hormone in their body, but we also milk pregnant cows in this country, which means that the doses of hormone are even higher. So that can interfere with things. And, we give them antibiotics, and we give, they have, the milk has, a certain degree of pus in it and all those kinds of things. And so those things can cause inflammation in the body when, you're exposed. If the antibiotics are interfering with your gut microbiome, that can cause inflammation. So there's so many factors. Now wheat is not always a problem for people. There are a lot of people who don't have a problem with wheat, but again, wheat has changed over the years. I mean, the wheat that people were eating 100 years ago isn't the same wheat that we're eating today.
So again, we have that pesticides too.
Pesticides, and we have, we've done hybrid crosses of the wheats in order to make it, it's also that it's all a certain height and it stands up straight and that we can harvest it easily. So as they're not necessarily genetically modified, but as you change the composition of the plant, the nutritional qualities start to change as well. And there's even evidence to show that, with climate change, with the amounts of CO2 in the atmosphere, it's affecting the way, the theory was that, plants are going to grow better because they're going to have more CO2, which is what they use to, photosynthesize and create their own food. But what we're finding out is they're actually, the nutritional value of these foods is actually lower with these higher elevations of CO2 in the atmosphere. So there's so many factors that are contributing to all of this.
Amazing. It's amazing. And for those of you, my listening friend, you're listening to Dr. Amanda McKinney. She's an OBGYN. We're talking about how to reverse and improve your whatever is going on in your body with infections. And so that we're giving away 2 cards, one from Native Sun, 3 locations in Jacksonville. They're all non-GMO, all organic. And Sunseed Co-op in Melbourne and Cocoa Beach has made that decision as well. So we're giving a $20 gift certificate for the first caller that calls after the show ends. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Amanda McKinney when we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Okay. Okay, so now let's get into the nitty-gritty when we come back.
Okay.
And discuss the difference that good nutrition makes. I'm telling you, my girlfriend that I was telling you about, she had 5 miscarriages. 5 miscarriages, and told that she could never, she had one of the worst cases of endometriosis, and she had gone to, is it St. Paul Catholic Hospital?
Maybe down there. I don't know.
It's a Catholic hospital in Omaha.
Pope John Paul.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Pope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pope Paul. I knew there was Paul, and I knew it was Catholic. Okay.
Yeah.
So Pope Paul, and the doctor there, it was a grueling, she was, I think, I don't know how many hours she was, having the they were I don't know what the terminology is,
yeah.
They were removing her endometriosis that was all in her abdominal area. And after the surgery, they told her that they could not save one of the ovaries. And of course, in a Catholic hospital, they're going to do everything to save your reproductive organs, right?
Yeah.
So they went ahead and saved like a little teeny portion of her ovary, just a teensy. And the doctor told her she will never have children, just to start the adoption process. And she knew she was not called for adoption. Now she has 3 beautiful kids. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And she did it without in vitro fertilization. What do you think about in vitro fertilization?
That it's all really interesting. Whenever we start to, the more that I look at all this stuff, most people, when they have to resort to in vitro fertilization, it's because there's something wrong, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you don't correct the underlying abnormality, you are asking for potentially for trouble. And so, the in vitro will maybe oftentimes fail, or, or there's, if it's just truly not a structural problem, if there's some underlying metabolic condition, it fails. Or the underlying metabolic condition then has an adverse effect on the fetus, and you have an infant with, an increased risk of being obese or diabetic when they get older, or or autism. We're seeing that's a big problem. So I don't have any problems, with people doing in vitro. I just think that it's perhaps the approach is we're missing a big step in there to try to get people to be a lot healthier before we undertake that as an option.
Again, it's that, I'd rather take a pill than take responsibility. And that's what's been implanted in us, that if you just go to the doctor, you'll get better.
Right. People have way too much faith in modern medicine. Way too much faith in modern medicine.
What's the reality of modern medicine? Do you guys really know? Most doctors really know what's wrong with the individual?
I think from the sense that people can make the diagnosis, like, you have diabetes or you have heart disease. I think we're very good at that. But as far as people truly understanding the underlying process and the actual, what's actually happening in the person's body metabolically that's causing that, no.
Do you know? Have you ever? Oh gosh, remind me to tell you about Dr. Mona Lisa Schultz. Remind me to tell you about.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where you can hear us worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. I am your host, Lillian McDermott, and it is my goal that we learn from each other. It never fails. This weekend, I spent some time with Jake, my little grandson, and there is nothing, and I'm going to use two negatives. There is nothing he cannot do. He can do anything. Can you imagine going through life with that belief? If you would have continued that belief, how would your life be different today? How would your life be different today? Now, we've been told a bunch of misinformation because we want to protect our truth. And so today, we're talking about how to reverse, how to prevent infections in our body. But first, before we talk about this, we need to get down to the root cause of all of this. We need to get down to our truth. What are we doing to ourselves to promote an unhealthy life? Could be that you're unwilling to look at what you're putting into your body, which is unhealthy. You are what you eat. We hear that all the time. That's true. And so today we are talking with Dr. Amanda McKinney. I saw her first in the new documentary, Eating You Alive, and I am obsessed. This one, Forks Over Knives, Educate Yourself. Most guys read the manual, and I don't know about women. I've never read it, but if you buy a car, you want to know everything about your car, how to take care of your car. You would never think about putting sand in your gas tank and expect your car to run smoothly. The same thing with our body. And so let's, I don't want to go too much into the website, but whenyouneedafriend.com is a place where we take 100% responsibility for our lives. And so I want to encourage you to go there and become a subscriber and just go in there, check out, to see what you can do for my sponsors, help promote them, do whatever, because of them, this show is on the air. That's the bottom line, because if you're not if you're not paying attention and the sponsors aren't paying for the show, then hey, it goes away. But learn this new truth with me. Go to whenyouneedafriend.com, check it out, and please become a subscriber. And then subscribe to my social media. And remember, today we're giving away a $20 gift card. The first one for the First Coast is Native Sun. They have 3 locations, one in Mandarin, Cocoa Beach, and Bay Meadows. They're all organic, non-GMO. They've made that commitment. Go there and start your new life when it comes to health and abundance. And then also Sunseed Co-op, Space and Treasure Coast. Sunseed Co-op has made that commitment. They're on A1A, ready to help you and guide you to what you need to do to live a healthy life. And if you call 407-373-5959, you can win a $20 gift card to start this journey of health. Now, if you've won this gift card before, you don't qualify. So tell somebody else to call so that a friend of yours, you can make a difference in a friend of yours' lives. So Dr. Amanda McKinney, I'm so grateful that you're with us today, sharing this information, how food can help prevent and reverse disease or inflammation or infection in our body. So let's talk about polycystic ovarian. A lot of women have issues with that, endometriosis. Let's talk about how we can help reduce inflammation in the body there.
Right. So with endometriosis, it is primarily an inflammatory condition. And so if you can reduce the inflammation, oftentimes you can reverse that process. And so eating a diet that promotes anti-inflammatory foods. Okay, so the fruits and the vegetables. Right. So the fruits and the vegetables, particularly the cruciferous vegetables, which are your broccoli and your kale and cauliflower. Those are some of the most important vegetables to include in your diet. Beans are a super important part of a healthy diet. And so endometriosis, just through dietary change, you can improve that. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is a little bit different in its etiology. So it's primarily a problem with insulin resistance. And so when we gain a certain amount of weight, when we reach a certain threshold of fat accumulation inside our muscle cells, we develop insulin resistance. And that fat gets into the muscle cells primarily from eating fat. So eating too much fat and too much sugar.
Okay, so let's qualify fat here. Are you talking about avocado fat, or are you talking about cow fat?
Right. So it's primarily saturated fat. So we're talking about animal fats. However, we also know that if we're consuming too much fat in general, right? So if you are just eating a whole foods plant-based diet and you're eating nuts and avocados and all those kinds of things, that's typically not a problem. Unless you're overdoing it on the calories, and then you're gonna gain weight. Okay, sure. So if that's just the reality. But those fats are different. They're different metabolically than saturated fats are. Saturated fats are not only, they not only accumulate in the muscle cells, but they also will accumulate in the pancreas. And that's where the cells are that create insulin for the body. And they're actually toxic to those cells. Those cells are called islet cells. And that saturated fat is actually toxic to those cells in ways that the unsaturated fats, like, avocado fats, are not.
Okay.
So you develop this degree of insulin resistance. And when that happens, there's sex hormone binding globulins that get interfered with, and women actually don't ovulate on a regular basis. And that's what polycystic ovarian syndrome is. It's this infrequent ovulation that interferes with the menstrual cycle. So the periods are irregular, and it also interferes with the ability to get pregnant, because obviously if you're not ovulating monthly, or you don't know when you're going to ovulate, it's not on a regular cycle, it's very difficult to conceive. And then once the conception does occur, if you've got this sort of inflammatory milieu going on in the body, the endometrium actually becomes hostile to that little embryo. And so they're oftentimes not able to implant, and then miscarriages and things like that can occur.
I see that. Okay. So now if you have polycystic ovarian and you are using an IUD, does that complicate things?
Well, there are different types of IUDs. So one of them there's a copper IUD, which the copper, the metal itself is spermicidal. So it's kills the sperm. And yes, it creates a hostile environment for embryos. So that's not going to help things in the sense that, it's certainly not going to help you conceive. It's not going to affect your ability to ovulate. It's not going to improve that at all. And then there's the Mirena Iud, which is a levonorgestrel impregnated IUD, a progesterone impregnated IUD. And that will help with the bleeding problem, because it keeps the lining of the uterus very thin, so that women with PCOS don't have these irregular heavy periods. But it, again, does not improve or change anything about what's happening metabolically in the body. It doesn't address the underlying cause.
So what I'm hearing you say is that polycystic ovarian, if you have polycystic ovarian syndrome or whatever it's called, then if you lower or eliminate your animal fats, that will improve?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. No beat around the bush. That's it. So let's talk about, is there anything else you'd like to add about polycystic?
No, I think that's it.
Perfect. Okay, so let's move on. So there's other things. There's urinary tract infections, bladder infections. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So urinary tract infections, the bacteria, the most common pathogen in a urinary tract infection is E. coli. And these are what we call ascending infections. So these bacteria are coming from the rectal and vaginal areas and infecting the bladder. But what we know is that a large portion of this, and we just discovered this within the last 10 to 15 years, that these are actually zoonotic infections, and they're primarily coming from handling or consuming chicken. So it's really important to, if you have a problem with urinary tract infections or you're having recurrent infections, that it's really important that you avoid eating chicken and actually even just handling it or bringing it into your home, because you can actually become colonized with these E. coli. So E. coli are fecal bacteria, and 97% of the chicken in the stores is contaminated with fecal bacteria. And so when you get that fecal bacteria into your house, you can become colonized with it, and then you can develop these urinary tract infections.
I am okay. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this one, because I have never, you said zoonotic?
Zoonotic. Mm-hmm.
Zoonotic. We're going to find out what zoonotic is when we return worldwide with Dr. Amanda McKinney. And remember, you will get a chance to win a $20 gift card at the end of the show. So keep listening, and we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. Zoonotic. I had heard about how chicken and bringing chicken in the home was causing a problem, but I'd never heard why.
Yeah, that's one of the problems. I mean, there's lots of problems with it, but that's one of them. Yeah.
So how can you avoid that? Just not eating it or not bringing it in the home, or
Yeah, you just have to keep it out. Yeah.
so how does it, I mean, is it something that goes airborne, or you're just consuming it and it doesn't die when you're cooking it?
Well, if you cook it to the degree that it needs to be cooked to, you can kill it. But the problem is that it's just that colonization in your kitchen. And they've done lots of studies where they've looked at teaching people how to clean their kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing what level of contamination is left. So they say, just prepare the chicken as you would, and then you have another group that's been trained, to clean and use bleach and do all these things, and it really does not impact the level of contamination in the kitchen.
Really? Wow.
And so just, I mean, the bacteria are everywhere, and so people get it. They get it on their hands, and then it gets on other surfaces. So even if you clean your surface, it's still somewhere. And so after you've washed your hands and then you touch it, and maybe you touch your face, or, rub your nose or whatever it might be, you're contaminating yourself. You're colonizing your GI tract with these bacteria, and then they're there. So
can you wash your hands? And I mean, can washing your hands do? Because when I would prepare animal products, I would use gloves. I would use latex-free gloves, and then I would take off the gloves and I'd throw the gloves away. Mm-hmm. Something like that. Is that health better for you, or?
Well, I mean, theoretically, you think that would be the case, but when, like I said, when they've done the studies, it doesn't really matter how much you teach people, or all these precautions. But at some point, you have to say, okay, well, if I'm having to gown and glove and treat my kitchen like a surgical operating room,
mm-hmm.
That might be a clue that this isn't probably something we should be doing.
Now, do you get the same thing from cow or pork? Beef or pork?
No, it seems to be with just specifically for this, with the urinary tract infections and E. coli, it seems to be primarily chicken.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Okay. So zootonic. So I thought you were going to say zoonosis was like having dogs in your house and that animal causing the problems in the house.
Dogs don't seem to cause a problem, but other
you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
OMG. For those of you who are just tuning in, we are talking to Dr. Amanda McKinney, and what we're talking about is how we can reverse or prevent inflammation, infection in our body. And her number one way to treat her patients is by switching what they eat. Lifestyle changes that will change lifestyle changes will change your life. Bottom line. That sounds very deep and profound, but it's the truth. It's a new truth that I want to encourage you, that if you're eating something from a box, a can, processed, and it has an expiration date, it doesn't have an expiration date, then think again, because that's all going in your body. But today, right before we went on the break, she talked about zoonotic, and it's primarily from chicken. Dr. McKinney, this is really, so I thought that people got bacterial infections if they did not maybe urinate after, or when I'm talking about bladder, if they weren't urinating frequently, or didn't urinate after intercourse, or, that's how these bladder infections occurred. But you're saying that a lot of it is from the E. coli of the chicken we're consuming.
Right. So, so you're right in the sense that if women who have, women who are colonized with this E. coli bacteria from chicken and other sources, if they're colonized with that and then they have intercourse, that's a way for those bacteria to be introduced from the rectal vaginal area to the urethra and the bladder. And so that actually can contribute to, pushing those bacteria up into that area. However, the colonization, where those bacteria are coming from in the first place, is actually from handling or eating the chicken, primarily.
Unbelievable. Okay. So I want to remind you, my listening friends, that during the breaks, we are recording my conversations with my guests. So the conversation with Dr. McKinney is recorded during the break, and you can see this video on YouTube, and possibly we'll post it later as well on Facebook at facebook.com Lillian's radio show. And I also want to remind you that be the first caller or texter at 407-373-5959, and you will get the first caller will get a Native Son $20 gift card. They have 3 locations, one in Mandarin, one in Bay Meadows, and the other one in Jacksonville Beach. A $20 gift card for you to start your journey if you want to learn how wonderful it is to eat healthier, to change your life. And then the people that live in the Space and Treasure Coast, Sunseed Co-op in Cocoa Beach, Florida, near Cape Canaveral, one location there. But both places have made a commitment, non-GMO and only organic. And that's how, let's talk about that when it comes to, Dr. McKinney, non-organic foods. Is there a way to kind of avoid the pesticides in our body?
Well, so the interesting thing about pesticides is that, a lot of chemicals, is that they're fat-loving compounds. And so when you, if you have fat on your body, okay, you tend to store them more than somebody who has less fat on their body. But also those pesticides and things are what we call bioaccumulated. And so when, when an animal, like a cow eats grass that's got pesticides on it just from the environment and the atmosphere.
And the corn, right?
And the corn, whatever else they might be eating. They're concentrating those pesticides in their fat. And so when you consume their fat, whether it's their dairy or whether it's their meat, you're getting much higher levels of that than you would if you ate let's just say an ear of corn that had gotten sprayed with a pesticide. Okay.
Wow.
So that's the thing to consider. So if you really want to reduce your burden of chemicals and pesticides, you really need to cut out the bioaccumulated fats that you're eating, which means the animal products, the dairy and the meats and those kinds of things.
Unbelievable.
And, I want to say too that, with these zoonotic infections, this is a really important topic because 3/4 of all of the emerging and reemerging infections that we are seeing, globally are a result of zoonosis. So it's humans, encroaching upon wild areas, right? And it's also domestication of animals. So, when we domesticated pigs a long time ago, that's when pertussis and whooping cough came about. And
wow.
And when we domesticated chickens, that was the source of a lot of typhoid fever. Cold viruses happened when we started domesticating horses. So there's all sorts of implications from these various viruses and bacteria that are coming from animals. We talk about swine flu and we talk about bird flu and all those kinds of things. And it's important to remember that 20% of all cancers are actually the result of viral infections, just like, we talk about HPV, human papilloma.
I was just going to ask you about that.
Cancer. not to say that that's necessarily a zoonotic infection, but we know that a lot of these viruses are, can cause cancers. And so, it's really important to maintain a healthy immune system in order to avoid infections, because we inhale millions of viruses and bacteria with every breath we take. But it's whether or not our immune systems are functioning properly enough to fight those off. And so eating a really healthy diet, eating mostly eating plant-based foods, eating or getting enough sleep is really important. Getting a moderate amount of exercise, but not doing intense exercise, because that can actually, lower your ability for your immune system to function. Right. So chronic moderate physical activity is really good for your immune system, but the marathon runners and the triathletes and those kinds of things, they suffer with more frequent infections because of, it runs down their immune system. So, those are the things that are ultimately going to, protect you.
Amazing. This is great information for all of us that want to make some shifts, some tiny little changes so that our life will change also. Now, you said HPV. I've been diving a little bit more into vaccinations, and some people are vaccinating their children. Some women are vaccinating because of this HPV virus. Is this a good thing, or is this something that we should avoid like the plague?
Well, I think that it's a good thing ultimately, because you've got four strains of the HPV virus that cause about 70 to 90% of all cervix cancers. And so if you can protect yourself against those viruses, ultimately, you're going to do okay. However, the fact of the matter is that 80% of young women, in their 18 to 24 age, 80% of women get exposed to those viruses, and 80% of those that get exposed will actually clear the virus on their own because their immune systems are functioning properly. So it's really a fairly small percentage of women. But if and we want to protect those women, but we can also help protect them by helping people realize healthier lifestyles so that we're not so susceptible to the viruses. Very
good, very good. And I want to remind you, my listening friend, that if you're the first caller after the show, you will get a $20 gift card for people on the First Coast, Native Sun, 3 locations, non-GMO, all organic. They're giving you a $20 gift card so that you can start your journey, and as well as the Space and Treasure Coast Sunseed Co-op off of Atlantic Boulevard, or A1A in Cocoa Beach. This is just a start for us to learn a little bit more, and it's up to us, right, Dr. McKinney, that we need to do our own due diligence, right?
That's right.
Well, I want to thank you for being on the show today. This is great that this is a start for us, and I appreciate you being a part, because I never thought gynecological issues could be affected because of my food. So Thank you for bringing that awareness to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and to you, my listening friend, you know what to do, 407-373-5959. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Unbelievable. I'm going to turn off the recording real quick, and I want to thank you for listening today.